Let's get started. Welcome, everybody. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have several additions to our agenda tonight. We're going to be here for a while, so get comfortable. First edition, ratify/support Bob Spencer's testimony to the PUC. It's Bob Spencer's testimony because he's the one that said it, but it's Planning Commission's testimony to the Public Utility Commission regarding the sale of Vermont Yankee to North Star.
Big business.
This will be, I don't think we've really talked about this, so let's put it under new business. And we'll agree to these all at once. Support select board testimony expected at January 4th PUC hearing. That's gonna be me. The testimony that I'm gonna give at the PUC meeting on the 4th is in your packet. We're gonna look that over and make sure that everybody's happy with it as a select board, so when I stand up and speak, it's not coming from me, it's coming from the Vernon Selectboard to the Public Utility Commission. That can be new as well. Reinvestment of federal bond that has matured. That could be old business probably. And then we will have an executive session in between the regular meeting agenda, which stops after old business and the beginning of the budget discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to add the 4 additional items to the agenda as mentioned. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, so those have been added. I have no remarks tonight because we're going to be here for a while, so we're going to keep this moving. There's lots of guests. Welcome, everybody. Open public comments, non-agenda items only. Seeing none, thank you. Department committee reports, we don't have any. Approval of meeting minutes, regular meeting, November 21st.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes of November 21st as printed. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to accept the regular meeting minutes from November 21st as written. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
One abstention, I was in favor.
You got that, Michelle? Okay. Budget meeting minutes from November 22nd.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the budget meeting minutes of November 22nd as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the budget meeting minutes from November 22nd. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? One abstention. Mr. Clerk, bills and warrants.
Yes. We have the following warrants for approval and authorization of payment by the Select Board. Warrant 11-T, accounts payable in the amount of $70,501.47. Warrant 47S for payroll in the amount of $7,454.54. And finally, warrant 48S, payroll in the amount of $6,979.96. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the warrants as read. Any discussion?
Just a note that the large portion of that, as you probably noticed, is of accounts payable is payment for insurance fees to VLCT.
All those in favor of the warrants as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Move on. Emergency Capital Reserve Fund addition to annual report. We have.
Linda, do you want
Explain
me
that to me.
You want to just,
to just let them know? Okay, yes, under the funds, the capital project funds, in the annual report, there was wording that was never actually put in. There was a motion meeting at a town meeting. What year was that? In 2000, and it was just never added into the information. So, oh, here, there it is. So the capital plan committee would like to put this in the annual report so that everybody knows how it all works.
Okay. I don't think we really need a motion. Everybody okay with that being added to the?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. That will happen. Cemetery deed. The other Mr. Clerk.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
I can't see.
We have before you a cemetery deed.
Can you
Oh,
slide down
sure.
one? Thank you.
The now visible Tim Arsenault, Town Clerk. We have before you tonight a cemetery deed for Mr. Arnold Weatherby, lot 741 in North Cemetery, paid for at the out-of-town rate of $300 for the plot, plus $200 for the corner posts. I ask the board approve the cemetery deed and sign it for approval.
so moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the cemetery deed for Arnold Weatherby. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We are good there. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. I'll wait for that as it comes around.
Sir.
I'll get a couple of volunteers from the audience to witness it.
Jeffrey. While we're signing this, we're gonna just kind of keep chugging through our agenda here. We need to ratify the support of the Bob Spencer testimony to the PUC Planning Commission as well. That we as a select board accept what was presented to the PUC.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, moving and seconded to ratify the support of the Bob Spencer testimony to the PUC. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Still. So in your packet, you will see a short, of course I had it, now it's gone. A short testimony that I will be reading at the PUC meeting on January 4th. That will be held at the elementary school. When I give this testimony, I'd like the support of the select board to represent as the Vernon Selectboard making this statement. So I wanted you all to read it and agree, disagree, change things, tell me what you want to do.
Just one word suggestion here
Sure.
in the 5th paragraph, the word preview, I believe you're looking to use purview there.
Oh,
Thank you.
We'll probably change the date.
Yeah. This is just going to be in my hands.
I thought it was very well put together and succinct and
Thank you. It was a mismatch of something that I had presented at an IndyCat meeting and then Michelle taking it and making it better.
I move that we support you with your testimony.
Okay, moved and seconded to support testimony from the select board to the PUC on the January 4th meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you very much. And please attend that meeting. Property tax adjustment, late filing penalty waiver request. This is the Woodcock request that we've discussed twice now, I think.
This is the second time.
This is, okay, this is second, it feels like a lot. So the long and the short of it is that it was not an error from her accountant that caused this to be late, as we originally thought. It was an oversight altogether. So, I guess we'll open up the discussion to determine whether we want to, waive her penalty.
Well, I have a question as far as history goes. Do we have other situations like this that we've waived penalties as a result of someone's not remembering to do something? Or?
I actually did ask Cindy, but she's right here. She wants to give you that quick background.
You want to come up, please? That way our friends at BCTV can hear you and see you.
I have to sit over here, Cindy, because the camera's right there behind us.
We've had two other waiver requests. One was for someone who got filed late and then freaked out when she got a penalty and contacted our then select board chair, and ultimately that one was waived. And the other one was a serviceman who was over in Iraq and came back from serving over in Iraq and filed late, and I requested on his behalf, thanks to his service to our country, if we could waive it, and you guys chose to waive it. Those are the only two.
Okay, and there are others that have been paid, right? As far
Oh,
as
yes.
the-
Yes.
The majority have been paid. Those are the only two
Yes,
that
those
we've
are the
done
only two
that
that
have
were
been
waived.
actually
The rest
waived.
have been paid.
So the precedent is set to now.
8%. It's 8% of the education tax is what the penalty is.
So do you know what her penalty is?
It's $200 and something. I don't know exactly what it is.
Right, I didn't know whether you were talking 2,000?
No, it's like
Around
around
200.
100.
I'm in favor of not waiving this because I think most of the time, most people, especially who've been here a while, or in the state of Vermont for a while, know about this and they know that there's a deadline. I think it's just a matter of, I would not be in favor of approving a waiver.
Okay, Jeff?
Okay, so you're gonna Steve, it's $200. You end up setting precedent, really, for future emissions.
Okay, Sandy?
And that, I don't know, Jack.
Okay.
I agree with that too, and also the fact that there were signs out at the side of the road with dates and reminders
Yes, yes.
for a long time. So I think that there was a good attempt by the town to notify people. So, yeah.
So we need a motion to that.
I move that we do not waive the penalty on this request from Karen Woodcock.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? You might as well stay here, Cindy, because I'm assuming the next one's gonna be you too. The reinvestment of,
To be quite honest, this is the first I've heard of it.
oh, okay,
No one.
I just heard about it 5 minutes before this meeting started.
okay. So who said it?
Gordy.
Okay,
It's the same deal as the last one that the select board, okay, a bond has matured, around $100,000 worth, and he would just like to reinvest it in the same vehicle.
okay.
I move that we allow the reinvestment of $100,000.
Second.
Okay.
Do you have any general, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Do you have any general thoughts on this? Is that something you think is a good thing, or?
Yes, I think it's a good thing. I think that we should be giving a little more notice.
Yes.
Because,
That's
yeah.
probably the consensus here.
But no, I think it's a good thing to reinvest it.
Money's already been
Right.
invested, so you
Yes.
haven't needed it.
We're just reinvesting it again.
Yeah.
We don't need it right now, so we
Okay.
might as well make some extra money out of it.
Sure.
Well, I
All right.
think there's a certain point where we all need to talk again about moving forward with the town finances.
Mhm.
Yeah. 5-minute notice
Yeah.
isn't sufficient at all.
No, it's not, because I was surprised when you mentioned it.
So
Is
that
there
should
some way
probably
we
get
can
communicated
communicate?
to him.
Yeah, somehow. I don't know what the proper vehicle is.
Thank you.
I will give Gordy a call. I don't know.
I mean, surely the next one's coming up. There's a schedule when they are.
I think we got that schedule at one point.
Yeah.
We
Well,
did get it,
We did, yeah.
when all the bonds are maturing, but it would be, yeah, we did get it. I do remember getting it, but.
All right, well, I just think at some point in the future, we need another discussion.
Oh,
about
absolutely, I agree.
Town investments.
So we got a motion, we got a second. We have any further discussion? Is select board all done? Okay, go ahead, Ron.
You may already have, I can't hear, some of you are talking very nice and quiet among yourselves, so, and I'm aging, so I can't hear everything. I had some questions about when these bonds mature, are there dividends, and what happens to those dividends? Do they come to us, are they reinvested? I heard Jeff, I think, say that, or you guys agree that at some point there'll be a discussion about, so all this, you may already have.
We've had a discussion once already when we first went with Edward Jones to kind of realign our finances. This is going to be a follow-up discussion to make sure that things like tonight don't happen again.
At this point,
So-
the dividend checks that we get go into the savings portion so that we have money to we can spend if we need to.
You
Like,
can dip it as needed.
right.
Okay.
But we don't touch the invested money. We-
Right, no, that's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what's been happening with
How
the
often do
dividends.
these things, I mean, what are the length of time on these investments?
They're different lengths of time.
They roll out
Yeah.
usually?
Yes. So there's different ones. There's two that came up not long ago and then this one, but they're not all going to, they're go over a course of time at different times, so we're never
Yeah,
going to have a
you
whole
just
bunch at
put-
once.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, moved and seconded to reinvest the federal bond that has matured. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? We are done with that. We are at the point now that we are going to go into what I hope to be a fairly quick executive session regarding the office. Person in
Personnel.
office.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we go into executive board and town
Michelle.
administrator
Yep.
go into executive session on the appointment or employment or evaluation of public officer or employee for 1 VSA 3133A3.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of going into executive?
No, I was.
Okay. All those in favor of going into executive session, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? We are in executive session. All right, we went into executive session at 6:48, came out at 7:10. No action was taken. So we move on to budget discussions. Listers, do we have anybody here from the listers office? Hey, Carol. If you want to come up, you can, but you don't have to. So the Lister's office essentially has no budget with the exception of pay and health insurance. And a little bit in travel and conferences. Is everyone happy with the Lister's budget as it stands? Steve?
I am,
Good?
yes.
Yeah. Sandy? Okay, good. You're all set, Chris. Thank you for coming. Library, come on up. If you want, you don't have to.
I go off the screen.
Yeah. And that one. So everyone can see you.
The library.
It's in here. No, it isn't. Wasn't? Okay. Is it revised?
Because of the insurance.
It's, okay, yeah, okay, makes sense.
Here, the next page. Nope, there you go.
All right, library budget. So, we got the insurance in here, so now we have a clear picture. We're looking at an increase year over year of 15,908. Steve, I'm gonna start with you.
Yeah, what page is this on?
It is,
It's not.
it's by itself.
Oh, I'm
On
sorry.
this little Excel
I
spreadsheet,
thought it was black loss division.
because it's not really, it's not a budget item, it's an article.
Oh, all right, that's right, it is. I think I've got a copy of it.
You
Oh,
should.
yes, I do.
Took me a minute to find that too.
My apologies. Well, I was, from my own personal standpoint, I was hoping that we could somehow keep things close to level funded. I don't know, I guess I'd like to hear more about why we can't. What I would say.
Sure.
I guess this discussion is the same as the first time we came, in that there's a little bit of increase in hours for the director, which is me, because I am now doing basically 3 jobs after last year's cuts to the budget. And to also bring in a little bit more for an assistant. Because at this point, it's about, I think she averages maybe 8 hours a week. 9.5. 9.5, yeah. So the trustees felt that this was important in running the library. Pretty much the time I'm there, we're open, which is, I'm the librarian, so I'm the main one that's helping people in many aspects, and that makes it hard to get the administrative side of things done. So it would give a little more time for that. So that's, pretty much where the changes come, because the staffing was severely cut last year. Otherwise, the other line items pretty much all stayed the same. We put a little bit more into marketing and fundraising because we need to put a lot more into that activity now. And travel and conference was up because the librarians have not been able to participate in any professional conferences, so that's pretty much where the changes fall.
With regards to the conferences, have you, I know that some departments here have access to things called webinars and that sort of thing. Is that something that you've considered as
I do
opposed to
webinars
traveling?
all the time. The conferences provide more networking with your peer professionals,
Uh-huh.
and you can learn a lot, get a lot of ideas, kind of rejuvenate your batteries quite a bit, and just do all that kind of networking there. Webinar, you're sitting with your computer, and it's pretty
No,
much,
I understand
you
that,
know.
and, yeah.
But I do those. That's a great thing, because we don't have to travel for all those
Mhm.
educational
Right.
components
Yeah.
anymore. So that does truly save a lot.
Jeff?
I guess my concern, as I stated before, was accounting for fundraising efforts. So you're gonna put more money into, trying to get charitable funds, but where's the money go?
It goes towards staff salaries, operating funds. We have, since town meeting, done a number of things to raise funds. We had the plant sale, we had the fall foliage raffle, which was brought in $1,000. We had the bake sale at the Vernon Artisans Market. And all of you know that we just sent out before Thanksgiving an appeal letter, and we've had a number, I'm not sure of the number of how much we've gotten. I think I've heard over 3,000 so far. And I want to thank everybody who has contributed, and I want to encourage others who haven't to do so. And there are other ways. You don't have to just do a lump sum. I myself am doing a 12-month pledge. But there are other ways too that people can volunteer. We have volunteers, and they've been helpful, really helpful in making the library, keeping our services and resources for our community and patrons they are. The trustees have had to look at with staff, look at our roles and our responsibilities, and we realize we have to do heavy fundraising. And and be active in the library more than we were. And there are other ways to contribute. I mean, we have homeschoolers who do the bulletin boards every month. They're great. If you have an idea and I'm talking to the camera especially, if anybody has an idea for programs, come to talk to Jean or to any of us and the trustees. We're open to suggestions. If you know of, I don't know, if you have grant suggestions, anything, we're open. We want this library for the community and the patrons.
Well, I understand that. I mean, again, my opinion is somewhere the funds that are donated or have to be taken into account and to make up any kind of budget shortfall.
Well, we had a budget shortfall for 2016-17. Even with that total that you have there, we had a $5,524.42 budget shortfall, which came out of our gift fund. That's what the gift fund is for. It's at the discretion of the trustees to spend it. And that's why we're fundraising, and that's why we want people to volunteer and help us.
So
it is.
Do you have any sense of, how successful the fundraising is going to be going forward? I mean, you've made a lot of attempts so far. I don't necessarily need the exact dollar figure.
No, but I can answer your question in that this year's fundraising campaign has already surpassed last year being the first. So I think that's a good trend, good direction to be going in. But it costs money to put something like that together.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Kind of
I
can't make
agree
money
with spending more money on fundraising,
Right,
Yeah.
but
right.
you're gonna have to bring more in.
Exactly, right,
Yeah.
right. We just need it there to get it going.
We've had
Do you guys
really
have a
good,
rough figure of the money that's been raised for this year?
For,
since July,
Sure.
4,000.
and book sale, you know, the book sales ongoing, we're probably getting closer to 5,000.
So we've made up what we had to do for the shortfall, but we still have.
But, you know, the 70,000 that we were left with last year is, probably not gonna pay the expenses of this library this year. So we will need what we've fundraised.
Sandy?
I'm confused. It seems that if you've made money fundraising and marketing, that should go to fundraising and marketing, so you don't have to raise this up $400.
We have to pay for stamps. We had to, I don't know how much we paid for stamps. We had to get 1,500 stamps, first-class stamps. We may not have to do that in the future, but we had to do that this year.
You know, no, I'm just confused that you've raised close to 5,000, which is amazing and wonderful. It seems that instead of raising the budget line item, you would have taken that $400 at least out of what you raised.
Well, I get what you're saying, but I think it would be better, especially come town meeting. If you look at the first page of our budget worksheet in the town clerk's office, and have an estimated income for the year, or an estimated fundraising, or whatever the case may be, and then be able to show us your budgets, you know, 85,908, and we expect to bring in $5,000 in fundraising, so we have a total net cost to the town of, you know, 80,908. Because that's how we do every other budget, and that's how, you know, our residents are used to seeing that. Because right now, it shows you've done nothing in fundraising on your budget,
Right.
which we know isn't the case.
Right.
So we need to get that in front of everybody.
Okay. And that's probably the first time that we could even throw those kind of numbers around.
Yeah, because this
So-
second year that
Yeah.
you've done fundraising,
Yeah.
so.
That's great.
Okay, all right, that's
I
great.
will, because this is an article, I'm not really gonna buck what you guys wanna do. Do I think it will pass a town meeting? Absolutely not. I think you need to be prepared, as I stated at our first budget meeting, to pay your employees what they deserve as a group. And I guess that's all I got to say. I wish you luck, but I really hope that you prepare for it not to happen.
We can't try, we can't not try.
So, anybody else have anything?
I don't at this point.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cemetery. Cemetery, you guys have shown us a decrease more than what we asked for again this year.
Okay, so we're gonna ask for some back.
Uh-oh.
Oh, sure. I brought back up in case you
He
remember.
didn't
That's
really
right.
mean
I'm
that.
a
He-
wingman here. In case you
He's really saying what a wonderful job.
I was, but if you're gonna bring the budget back up, I'm gonna rescind that previous statement.
So,
Oh, for me?
She's got a handout.
sorry, I didn't put a picture on.
Is this
so-
as part of the town forest or what?
Yes.
All right.
Kind of our budget, but not our budget. Maybe, I hope not. If you haven't noticed, the North Cemetery fence
Yeah.
has a little boo-boo.
Was that someone?
Yes, someone ran into it. Cindy has filed a preliminary report with the town insurance. We're waiting for the final report, or the report from the sheriff's department.
I heard from the insurance company
Oh.
this afternoon. It's not covered under the insurance. However, they will help us if we want to try to get the money from the driver of the vehicle.
Okay.
They will help us with that, but we're not covered with the insurance for the fence.
Really?
Yes.
So, that is, by the way, the fence that we spent a whole lot of money 2 years ago refurbishing and
Yep.
repainting.
Of course.
And that was just painting, and now there's, so,
So you fooled me, because your budget's actually lower than in my packet.
so.
And now you're gonna take it all back with the fence?
No, not
Okay.
yet. So the sheriff's department needs an estimate for repair. So I'm waiting for that so they can plug that number in and get the final report from them to send off. And hopefully this lovely gentleman's insurance will cover it, because I'm sure he's gotta pay for that telephone pole too.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, so it may be kind of expensive to, I know it would be expensive to fix that fence.
Mhm.
So,
Just a quick question. So what kind of income is derived from selling plots annually?
the cost of the plot itself, because now we went last year from selling the plot and having to pay for the cornerstones out of that cost, which was at a negative, because we were charging resident, I'll just use that for example, $150. And the cornerstones were $200. So if you bought one plot, we're at a negative. So now the cost is $150 plus the cost of cornerstones. So that $150 is going into our funds.
I guess my question is really annually, I mean, I know it varies, but
Oh, for the,
what is the revenue or income generated from selling plots annually?
I don't know, we just sold,
In other words, you know, we're gonna spend $12,000 a year on maintaining, caretaking,
well,
what kind of
ours,
income?
so
that money
so
goes
that
back into that particular cemetery's fund.
fund.
It doesn't
So-
go into operating
right.
expenses for
So for
all the
this year,
cemeteries.
for this next year, Tyler, for instance, $8,320 is gonna come out of the Tyler Cemetery Fund to do the caretaking of that cemetery.
All right, I got
This year, we're able to take $500 from North Cemetery to take care of North Cemetery.
Okay.
Those are the only two that have funds available to do that. So the remaining balance to do South, Woodhead, Alexander Perry, the vault, and the South School, the historians will come out of what we raise at town meeting.
Steve, questions?
No, I'm pleased about the reduction. So I would say that's a positive comment about the budget.
And we broke, today Cindy and I did this, and we broke it all down so it could, people could actually see what was where. And I do want to I saw in some previous minutes that the $800 for the South School was commingled in with the historians, and that cannot be. The funds cannot be commingled in there. So this is the part of the caretaker's contract. And our groundskeeping is totally different than the historian's groundskeeping.
It's the same money, but last year the select board voted to move it into that line item so that they knew what the historians were spending on that, that's all.
But the intent was to show, when I asked to do that, the intent was to show what that building was costing.
Right.
But this is the and they can't be commingled into their funds. So I want to take it back out. Because this groundskeeping, to me, I guess it means different things to different people. But their groundskeeping is not mowing and is not taking care of. And he mows a lot down there for $800. So.
I don't care where we put it on. That's just where they
So-
voted to move it so that they could see
Right.
the cost of it.
But not, I didn't, my intent was not to put it into the same line item, was to identify it as our contract. So I just want to move it back to cemetery.
I don't want to.
Too bad.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
It's part of our contract.
Well, the contract with the caretaker has nothing to do with where we put the $800 that we pay him in our own budget. He gets paid that $800 regardless of what budget line item it comes out of.
Right, but
And
it
if
should
that's
be
an expense of,
identified separately, to me. This is mowing.
yeah,
To me, it looks like
But that- but
$2,300
that's-
for groundskeeping down there. It looks like an awful lot of money for mowing, to me, for mowing the lawn.
Well, that remainder of that money was, as we saw here just the last meeting, I think is, the large majority of it is actually doing other things than
All of it.
mowing, yeah.
all of it is everything but mowing.
Right.
The
yeah.
$800, it costs us less to mow than to keep mulch and flowers. In the
No,
beds.
that's what I'm saying,
Right.
it's like 1,500 or something.
Right,
for
which
those, yeah.
is an awful lot of money for
Well,
flowers and
I
So-
lawn,
don't,
but
that's
that's my.
apparently.
But yeah, I think we're gonna, keep that $800 in the historian budget because that's what it's for.
Gosh, I can do a separate line item under historians that says lawn care. If you it's just the point that she wants it separate from their other groundkeeping. Under where it says grounds, I can just do another line item that says lawn care. If that's the issue, is just having it separate from their other.
Yeah, I want it away from the cemeteries because it's not for the cemetery.
Right, I
it's
can
for-
put it in historians and
South
just do
School.
a separate line item that's called lawn care, if that makes everybody happy.
Is that? So you're just adding a line to the historian's budget.
Just
Correct.
separating it out from the rest of the grounds
So it
stuff.
says one's ground and one is mowing. Yeah, that's fine.
If
That's
that
fine.
makes everybody happier to
That
have it
that helps
separate.
me to delineate
Does that
what it
work?
is and understand it, and that'll help future
I can do
board
that. I'm
members
more than happy to do
as
that.
well. She just did it.
Done.
She's doing she's doing everything lifetime for us tonight, so we can kind of keep an eye on stuff.
How about we put,
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever done live budget before, have
No, I don't think we
That's
have.
cool.
ground care?
We're all-
Grounds care?
We're all digital and
Grounds
stuff.
care, that would be the same thing, lawn care, grounds care.
Landscaping. Landscaping?
Yeah, just call it landscaping. That's fine. Who cares? I don't care what it's called.
I can make it whatever you want.
Perfect. As long as we know to delineate what those two things are, and I think we can all be
Yeah,
smart enough to do that. Very good.
we can't change the 800, so if town meeting, they decided to reduce it, we can't reduce that 800.
Well, if town meeting, they
Yeah.
decide
so-
if town meeting, they decide to reduce the cemetery, you're in the same boat.
We are, but
So it doesn't really matter.
except for Tyler and North.
Yeah.
still.
So, questions, Sandy? Jean?
Nope.
Okay. We're all happy with the cemetery budget as
we?
is.
Yes, very
Okay.
much.
Thank you for all the work,
Yes. It's a wonderful
continued
job.
work to utilize the funds that are already there to offset expense,
Now, keep you posted on the fence.
please.
and,
No pun intended.
I was just gonna say, so to speak.
Granite, there's like two of them, at least two of them are broken. And the railing, no car thing. And tax sale is tomorrow.
I saw that.
Okay.
Tax sale's tomorrow at 4. Sandy, are you representing the board? I need a board.
Yeah, okay, I'll represent the board.
You represent-
You want to do that?
You usually do.
That's, yeah.
All right, Recreation Department.
All right, thank you.
You can come up if you want. You don't have to if you don't want to. Well, I mean, I can toast it up there if you'd like, sure. I'm not gonna start with you this time, Steve. I'm gonna go the other direction.
That's nice, thank you.
Gene,
Can't find the page yet, hold on.
it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
It's number 40.
I know it's somewhere in the middle.
40? No, that's not
That is number-
that.
I know it's the big one too, where it's,
Okay. Did have questions. Over here.
yes, I got it.
I guess I tend to question when things continually get budgeted for an amount that isn't spent,
Such as?
such as the maintenance foreman was like 3,400 for our last actuals.
We reduced it. That's budgeted at 2 positions for 40 hours a week throughout the summer. There certainly are times when they go home early if they get their work done, or if it rains, or why keep them there for the 40 hours? If you can reduce the cost, however, you do have to plan for the positions as budgeted. That's how we approach that. There's also going to be vacations that they're going to take that aren't necessarily, you don't necessarily know come budget time. So there's definitely some but you have to have the money there in the event that when you can't, it's hard to budget for a vacation ahead of time, or rain, or work getting done early, you know.
Well,
So we did reduce it.
because the same thing is kind of happening with customer service.
And we reduced all of them from this year to the proposed,
Right, but they actually had gone up
based on
this year and then
they were
back down again.
they were increased based on the minimum wage increases,
Okay.
and then there was nothing that we could do about that. And then based on actuals, we have been able to reduce it.
Okay. Weekend supervisor didn't.
No, that increased.
That increased in it.
It's cheaper to pay and more responsible to pay. Well, I can't say it's cheaper since we're salary, but to pay, you know, someone who is at the lower end of the pay scale than it is to pay myself or my brother to be there for that time.
that's for sure.
So that's the increase there to cover that time.
Because that's gonna be a change then.
It'll be just a little bit more usage is really the reasoning, just to try to stay closer to our actuals in what we anticipate.
And the reason why this is a little bit glaring for me is that when you budget for an anticipated amount that you really, or maybe over budgeting for, when that doesn't get spent, it's not helping lower our taxes anymore. Whatever you don't spend in your budget goes into another fund, so it never gets put back against the upcoming tax year.
It doesn't go back to the general fund, you're saying?
No.
No.
I mean, it used to be whatever we didn't spend, we could use that to defray the next year's tax burden, and it doesn't work that way anymore. The accountants had wanted a, like, rainy day fund send out for the town because the town had no funds that were unassigned, which meant there was no money out there that you could draw on that wasn't already designated for something. So when you're asking to raise the money, that burden is never gonna be lessened for the town if it doesn't get spent. Because we're gonna have to raise that money by taxes. And it will, if it's not spent, it's not gonna lower taxes in the future. So that's why when things are not showing that they were requiring those levels of funding, that's why I question it.
And I would look at it and say, well, if we're able to do, this is what we anticipate that the work is going to cost us to do, and if we can come in under, that's more fiscally responsible to do.
Well, it certainly is, but, maybe it needs to be budgeted for less if that's the trend of coming under like that. So that's just my concern on that.
Sandy?
No questions.
Jeff?
I don't know. Can you explain again about the weekend supervisor? Why?
I mean, that's
Why is
basically,
30,000 more?
it's $500 more. It's just, it's
Well, compared to what you spent in
well,
16,
between
17.
actuals, and that ebbs and flows. I mean, it's a lot of what we do in the summertime. You know, there's going to be a lot of weather dependent stuff. We close early now. If the weather didn't used to be that way, it used to be that
Open.
you're open and you're going to sit there and you're going to play cards, and that just isn't the right way to do things. We had realized that cannot happen. So there's a lot of our budget for the summer is based on anticipated need, and if we can reduce it, we do. But as far as the weekend supervisor goes, that's just somebody supervising the pool other than myself or my brother, who cannot possibly be there all hours that the pool is open. So it's having an on-duty supervisor.
Which I'm presuming
Yeah.
it's gotta be somebody that's not a minor, correct? Because a lot of times the guards are minors, right?
They are minors. Our supervisors last year, a couple of them were 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very seasoned 18 and
Yeah.
responsible people. Wouldn't put them in that position otherwise.
Right, but I'm presuming that, you know, you needed somewhat of more responsibility
They
to
have
be
to-
around.
They have to be responsible, certainly, yeah, and it's not something that we take lightly.
Right,
Yep.
right.
So what about historically, or I don't know, last 5 years, 10 years, attendance at the pool? Is it decreased?
In 10 years, probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Because that is something that,
I mean, if that's an ongoing trend, then
Yeah, and we've reduced our hours some as well. I mean, we used to stay open, you know, until 8:30. We cut it a half hour shorter every day. We used to have teen night 2 nights a week. We have it 1 night a week. So we've looked at hours in a way to reduce some of that as well, which actually is going to equate for some of the usage this year as opposed to being down, because the budget would have been put together and we kind of made the decision to not run as long. So
I mean, obviously the thing is when it's open, it doesn't matter if there's 1 kid in the pool or 100 kids. Costs the same.
yeah, right. It's true.
There's going to be a certain point where if there's only 1 kid in the pool, then the
Yeah.
town's not.
Yeah, no, and I
I'm not telling you anything you don't
understand
know.
that. Yeah, and I mean, to say that it's not as busy as it was 10 years ago, I mean, there's not the same amount of kids in town as there was 10 years ago. So to say percentage-wise, it may not be dramatically different as far as the percentage-wise of usage, if that makes any sense. But when you're talking 260 kids in an elementary school, 12, 13 years ago, and there's 160 now, I mean, percentage-wise, maybe we have even a higher percentage. I have never sat down and looked at it that way. I couldn't tell you.
So yeah, I just think it's something to consider.
Yep, and I think we're aware of that, and those are kind of things that we've talked about, the rec board occasionally, that there's going to, be things we're going to have to continue to explore.
because I have people coming to me concerned because they go by and it just doesn't look like there's really many people using the pool, even when it's a really hot day. So this is what the community is seeing and expressing, so.
Maybe some, others
So
will
maybe-
express an opposite opinion of that.
Yeah.
So you're going to have different opinions all over the place.
Exactly, but your numbers won't lie.
Yeah.
If
Sure.
you keep track of
Our
your
revenue's been
statistics.
fantastic, so I mean, if you can
Yeah.
look at it that way, our revenue is the highest we've ever had.
That's good.
And so, I mean,
That's good.
I can say maybe usage may appear to be down in numbers-wise, maybe slightly, but we've been able to increase our revenue while still making programs available to virtually everybody. So I can certainly understand those takes or those opinions. I understand that. Revenue-wise, it's been strong. So we're happy with that.
Steve?
Well, I certainly think that this area is one that makes Vernon very advantageous to move to. And that's why I really support this recreation budget. I did have some questions with regards to this maintenance form, and there was some discussion earlier about
Sure.
it. You've only got 1 year of actuals there in terms of, would you say that that's an unusual year, or is that normal to be like 100% or 50% or 75%?
It's definitely come in under budget for sure.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to quote a figure here and be inaccurate, but yes, it comes
I
in under
understand
budget.
Gene's point about, trying to budget what
Actually.
what closer to what what you actually would be expending, but if that was an unusual year, then.
Well, it's been under significantly. I mean, she's accurate with her saying that, and we did reduce it with the minimum wage increases and whatnot. We've had some fine tuning to figure it all
Yeah,
out.
those are, and then, of course, you have no control over the other things, the insurances and so forth.
Sure.
I know that it's a highly regarded facility in the area. Many people come to use that from out of town.
We do have a lot
And
of non-residents.
I don't see, I guess one of the things that would be really handy to sell a budget like this would be if you had some statistics on how many people actually come from out of town, and knowing, of course, they're paying more
Right.
to use the facility, that would be a plus for selling your budget,
Mhm.
especially at a town meeting. It seems to me like that would be an advantage,
Yeah,
both for you and also for the select board.
We like non-residents because they pay more.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, as you mentioned, if you run the same costs whether you've got 10 kids in the pool or 50 kids.
Right.
So I don't know if you have 50 kids in that pool, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there'll be times we will.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, anyway, but I certainly support the overall concept of the rec department. I think the things that you do for winter programs too are also very beneficial and highly used from what I can see in the school area there.
It's a busy place, yeah.
It is. I'm just glad we're able to keep our school now to continue to use it the way we've been using it.
Yeah, speaking of schools, probably this comes up almost every year. Does the preschool pay for itself?
Mhm. Yep, it does.
There again, you have kids from out of town going to the preschool too. So,
There are a few,
Few,
but it's
um,
very predominantly Vernon.
Right, but I mean, I'm just saying that it's such a good school that people come from out of town.
Yes, we do get, we do get a few, but generally, we're so filled, we hit our cap pretty quickly. Yeah. We can have no more than 20 students at a time.
Sure. And that's what's made, we heard for several years that the preschool didn't pay for itself. Moving over to the school has allowed us to have more kids, more space,
meet the
more
demand.
kids, more demand, more money.
Well, and
Now it
certainly,
pays for it, so.
I think it's a wonderful thing, just having the children all in that, under that roof. I can only imagine as a parent, if you had, someone in preschool and another child in third grade, having to make 2 stops rather than 1 is a great, more of a burden.
And it's really helped with the transition. The big school isn't such a big school to a kindergartner if they've been there for 2 years
exactly
before.
that,
It
yes,
certainly helped a
exactly.
great deal in that regard.
Exactly.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, so you're gonna be prepared at town meeting again to try to explain the whole school income thing?
I'm always ready for it, yeah. So,
Okay.
I'll be,
And we're waiting for that number still. from
yeah,
the
I
school
won't know
board.
that till probably mid to late January typically.
Yeah.
So, and then once we know estimated tax rates, we can actually see the true impact of it. It's really not anything we can calculate until we have those from both sides.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to answer Steve's question, in 2014-15, the maintenance foreman at the rec did come very close to budget. It's off less than $300.
What was that number?
It was 6,060 budgeted, 5,792 was spent, so it's within.
That's the problem with one data point.
$200.
I mean, it
So I
has
thought
traditionally
it
come in
grabbed-
under, but it's just, it ebbs
grabbed the other-
and flows.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. All set?
Think so?
All right,
Thanks, guys.
At least by the chair first. I said you have to get permission from the chair to be
Oh, stop. All right.
Not from me.
Run before they call it.
Just one of the sideline people.
Treasurer's office.
Where did I see you before today?
It's the second page in.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it does. It always helps. I should have these things. I just need to get around to it these times.
Gene.
moisture in there, there's no,
Nope.
not too much.
I didn't have any fluff.
Yeah.
The fluff was,
Just marshmallows.
Anything? Jim?
No.
Steve?
I did have just one kind of generalized question. I believe this is your first full year of having someone at 20 hours a week
Correct.
assisting you there.
correct.
And what I was wondering is can you kind of tell us how that's working out in terms of, are there things not getting done on time, or are there things that you would wish you had more of, or what's your general perspective on the whole process?
Well, it's, I guess in my case, I feel fortunate because before Kathy, my assistant was on only working partial hours anyway, so sort of when Kathy started at 20 hours, it was like I got an increase even though I got a decrease. But I am putting in more hours myself because, Kathy comes in and works 5 hours a day. So there are different times in the year where I'm putting in more hours myself, especially around when we do taxes, when the taxes bills go out, when taxes are due. I'm not asking Kathy to work extra hours because she has a little bit, but I don't want her having a bunch of comp time that she can't use. So I've been trying to take up the extra hours. But like I said, this year I actually feel like I kind of gained a little because the prior year I had less of an assistant. So it's kind of hard to tell. I do know that I am, like I said, at different times of the year I'm putting in more hours myself, but I would hate to. I would say any further cut in my assistant would be hard on my office.
What in terms of either additional things or things that are become more streamlined, do you have a feel as to how that's changed over the last year, or it has or hasn't? Or?
Well, we've got additional work because we now have 3 tax payments instead of 2.
True, yes.
Which and so that's basically 3 busier
Areas
times rather than the 2. When tax bills go out, that's always a busy time. But during budget time, I have people coming in and different department heads and stuff that want help or information or know what's what and where. So we've been busy. We've been very busy. We certainly
Have there been any new regulations come down that you've had to comply with that have increased your workload, or are things getting more streamlined in that area?
they seem to be doing pretty well. And we've taken a lot of recommendations from the auditors our prior auditors, the ones that we had last year, and a lot of their recommendations have helped a lot with making sure we're going in the right direction. So, and it initially added extra work because it was a new way of doing things, but now that we've been doing it for a couple of years, it's actually helpful.
Oh, good. Well, that's good to hear that there are improvements at the end of the
Yeah.
tunnel, sure.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased that you have a reduction there too, so definitely focused on our overall needs in the town to try to keep costs down.
And we have, we started a few years ago charging for tax bills to escrow companies when they request them, and also to title searchers. We do not charge town employees for additional copies of their bill. I don't think that's fair. Someone loses their bill to say, yeah, we'll give you one, but you gotta pay for it. We don't do that, but we do charge the escrow companies now $2 per bill, and when people do title searches, $1 per bill. So that started a few years ago. And so we now have that as coming in as income.
Anything else?
That's all I have. Yeah.
Okay. As we're talking about assistance, it's, in my opinion, looking at comparison of other towns, that we need to reduce your assistant. My initial thought was in half to 10 hours.
We're going to be
I
using
think-
services.
I think, I disagree, but that's okay. I think a cut down to 15 is probably appropriate. The reason I feel that is when we look at other towns and the hours of their town clerk and the hours of their assistant, there's nobody that comes close to the time that we have allotted to that office. Just looking down through everything, we sit at about $74,000 in expense in the town clerk's office, not including,
You mean the town treasurer?
sorry, yeah, the town treasurer. 60, let's see, 70, sorry, I was actually incorrect.
79,000.
79,000 in the treasurer's office. Guilford, similar sized town, spends 54. Dummerston spends 18. I don't know how they do that. Westford spends 40. And the next closest town to us is Putney, who spends about, almost exactly the same as us at 80, with 500 more residents, a 25% increase in population from Vernon. That's where I'm looking at it from, is in that comparison. So that's what I'm proposing.
Well, I think in all fairness too is, we're looking at actuals 2016-17, and her proposed budget is going from, what, about 30,000 down to 17,000. How is that? Why is it going from 30 to 17 for an assistant?
That was the cut of
Because,
ours last year.
When Sally was my assistant, she was working 29 hours.
Okay.
And then when Kathy started, it was 20 hours. Sally went to 30 to 29, and then Kathy went to 20.
So you've already been cutting.
Yes. And our
As
office,
is everybody else.
our office is very busy. We're not having a time when we're sitting twiddling our thumbs. We're very busy in there. I mean, I would just have to say that it's obviously your decision, it's not mine, but I don't agree with cutting it again this year. I think we took a cut twice. And willingly, when said willingly, okay, if that's what needs to be done. So, I mean, you guys are the ultimate decision makers, so I can only tell you my opinion, which is that I think 20 hours is not unreasonable. Because I don't, if I am sick or I go on vacation or something, and then Kathy's going to cover, and then you're going to be talking about her accumulating a lot of comp time. And that comp time has to be paid, but if she's only allowed to work 10 hours, I'm either going to have her going weeks and weeks without working so she can use up the comp time. So I'm going to be paying her to not be there, which means I'm going to be working by myself while she's burning off comp time.
How does everybody else do it? With half the amount of hours that we utilize now? That's my question to you.
Well,
I don't
in
know.
my office, up until recently when I had to take some time off, I had, my office was open for 20 hours. But then I had to take some time off recently, and I had Kathy cover so my office wouldn't be short. And
Sure.
she had comp time, which I've had her using. But if you're talking about moving her to 10 hours a week, and she covers me, I can't have my office open when I'm on vacation for 10 hours. People will have a coronary. So even if I had her at 30 hours, that means she's comping 20 hours. Well, if I'm gone for 2 weeks, she's got 40 hours. That means I'm going to have, somewhere along the way, she's going to get 4 weeks off and I'm gonna be by myself, but she's gonna be being paid. So, I mean, it's up to you guys, it's your decision entirely, but in my opinion, I don't think 20 hours is unreasonable. You know, like I said, we've taken two cuts in hours in a row. When Sally was the treasurer and I was the assistant, I worked 40 hours, she worked 40 hours. And then we moved it down, actually took 3 cuts because we moved her to 30, then 29, then 20. That's just my opinion. I'm not, you know, I think 10 hours is a big cut. Down to 10 hours is a big cut.
And that's not what I proposed. I proposed 15.
Oh,
I think
sorry,
10
I thought I heard you
is.
say 10.
No, I did say 10 because I think 10 puts us more in line with, well, it still puts us spending more and having more hours than anybody else, reducing it down to 10 hours for an assistant. But I'm willing to propose, which I did, a 15-hour assistant instead of going all the way down to 10. And it still leaves us significant more coverage than other towns. And I guess I don't know how other towns take care of the business that they have to take care of with the hours that they have. Because I'm not in the business of being a treasurer.
Right, perhaps they're not open 40 hours a week during certain times, like when someone's on vacation, maybe they're only open.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's the case.
But I don't know if the town residents are going to appreciate. I mean, that's a risk if they vote for the budget, then that's what they're voting for, but
Yeah.
if I'm on vacation for 2 weeks and my office is only open 15 hours, you're gonna get complaints. I get complaints when we're closed on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You know, people
And that's fine.
you were closed, now Veterans Day was, you were closed for Veterans, well, yeah, it's a holiday, well.
You could, if it comes to pass, you can always blame the select board like everybody else always
Absolutely.
We'll
does.
say, go see Josh.
Absolutely. Send them my way.
All right.
Yeah, we get blamed for it.
So that's what I'm proposing. Is a 15-hour assistant in 20. That decision doesn't have to be made because we're going to vote on the budget as a whole. We don't vote on the individual.
It's something that we need to strongly consider as far as assistance. And, if, again, like if you get complaints like, well, the office hours aren't there, well,
And if the office hours aren't there because somebody's on vacation, it is what it is.
you can't always be a full service.
Well,
Town,
unfortunately, I guess they've spoiled our residents by trying to have our office hours, so, try to be open 40 hours. Between Tim and I, because I come in at 6 and he leaves at 5, we're actually, our office is open 11 hours a day, and
And you've seen the numbers of the amount of revenue that we've lost in the last couple of years. And you're right, we were a very spoiled town.
well, I'm just saying.
We've had the best of the best for a very long time.
But I think we've all sacrificed. I mean, as employees, we lost certain insurances that we used to have. We've cut assistance back. I mean, it's not like we haven't
No, I'm not saying that at all.
done our,
I'm not saying that at all.
And in fact, I did the best I could to reduce my budget this year.
And you did a great job.
I think another we should take into account is none of these others have a recreation department. And the finances have to come into that department, and the income has to come into that department. They have to keep track of. I just noticed that.
We also, I don't know if the other towns have libraries, but we do all the bills for the library, and their money comes in, we do that for the library. I don't know if the other towns have libraries and how that works.
Municipal libraries have to be handled that way, through the town treasurer.
Yep.
That's the law.
But I just don't know if those particular towns you're talking about have libraries.
Most of those are municipal libraries.
But
So, does the library pay for you to do that, or how?
No, it's paid for through my treasurer job, it's not paid through the library.
No, because each department doesn't pay for
Well, you are a separate entity from us, in essence, since you're not in our budget.
No, but we're
So,
taxpayers now.
well, so am I. I'm a taxpayer too.
That's all I have.
A lot to consider, certainly.
Because we're gonna see at the end of tonight that we have essentially cut nothing out of our budget this year, overall. And that
How do you figure that exactly?
you'll see it when you get the final numbers. I think
Well-
last time I looked
Not
at,
from your. he's
not
talking
from,
about
not from yours.
overall.
Not
He's
from
talking
yours,
about
the overall.
Other departments that have asked for more.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the total of all the budgets, unless you're talking about articles and everything.
No, we're not talking about articles.
As I have totals online of what the budget is as it was presented to you tonight. And I have it what it was as last year's, and it is down.
Insignificantly.
This is with the sheriffs.
What?
Yes, but what you have there, and this is another discussion to come up.
Yeah.
That number that you see is budgeted for $75,000 for the sheriff's department,
Yes, I did see that.
okay?
Yes, I did see that.
That is,
And you're figuring that's not gonna fly.
I'm figuring it's not gonna fly. So you add that 200, 125,000, 150,000 back in, we've
Yeah.
cut nothing.
Yeah.
Essentially nothing from this budget.
Well, that would be the people's choice then.
Right.
I mean,
Well, but us as a select board, I despise when people say that. I really despise it. Because us as the elected officials and the select board members of this town, it's our job to put forth a budget that we feel is fiscally responsible. If it's up to the members of the community, then why do we do this process? Let's just not do it. And let the town residents decide,
have
you
to
know, what
present
they want to
something
do at the
them.
town. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So,
I mean, you can't just not do it because then
That's-
you wouldn't, you go
that's
to town
exactly
meeting
what
and
I'm saying.
say,
So
what do you wanna do?
when that statement's made, it upsets me because it's our job. That's what we get elected for, to put forth the best fiscally responsible budget that we can put forth. What the town does from there is up to them, 100%. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But it's our job to put forth what we feel as the elected officials, what's best for the town.
And I think it's also our job to not always be on the popular side of things for individual groups, but in fact to look at the entire situation. I mean, we're all sitting here thinking about, you know, cutting this and that, but you think about people out there paying taxes. Some of them are cutting far more than we are to just maintain their homes and try to continue living here. And that's the kind of person that I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about the people who've got a lot of money. I'm more concerned about the people who don't have a lot and who are really squeezing everything they've got to make ends meet. Those are the people that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, and that's why for these last several budgets, even prior to some of us being on the board, we have done these town-to-town comparisons and said, okay, where can we cut? And you're right, we've made multiple cuts many years in a row, long before I was even on the board, this started. Should we have made a wholesale cut right from the beginning and said nobody has an assistant and good luck? Maybe we should have. Maybe that would have been easier than trying to,
I think I have to
maybe
have
than
an
trying
assistant.
to step back gently like we have been to make sure that nobody gets overwhelmed all at once.
Well,
But that's what we're trying to
I
do.
think statutorily, I've been told I have to have an assistant of some sort.
Yeah, and I was,
You have
I
to
was,
take a vacation so
Well, I
somebody else
have to
does
have-
the books.
I was making a point. I wasn't being serious.
Well,
I was
I'm
just making a point
well,
that, you know, those,
You have to do what you guys think is right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I think It's asking a lot, but if you guys decide to do it, that's your right. You're the select board. You're the ones that make the decision.
Yeah, and when I say this, I'm not necessarily picking on you at all, personally, or as your department, but, I mean, the voted budget from last year and the proposed budget for this year, gosh, you know, salaries went down.
Yeah.
Just because there's one less pay period.
Right.
And sort it out the following year. It's gonna go back up again.
Well, not every year or every other year. It's not an every other year thing.
But, you know, my point is, it's a little disingenuous to say, anybody, we cut our budget, we got less labor, well, yeah, you got one less pay week.
Well, I didn't say that.
No, I know you don't, at all. But
I cut wherever my fluff was. You know, I only have so
but
much.
I'm speaking about every single department in this town.
Right.
Yeah.
I
We've,
understand.
and that concerns me even more, because if we look at that decrease, we pull the sheriff's department out of that decrease. Our decrease right now with the sheriff's department pulled back out would be about $50,000 of our decrease. And that $50,000 isn't reality because there's one less pay period in next year. So that $50,000 becomes $5,000 in cut, because $45,000 of that is because of a decrease in a pay week. So again, if we don't do something, we have cut nothing out of this budget, and we have done nothing to help the citizens of Vernon to have a more affordable tax base. Because again, we lose our school, the last sliver of our school deduction this upcoming year, right? And so, with doing no...
You do realize, though, I just want to say this.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at your tax bill, and each of you individually, you will find 3/4 of your taxes as the school.
Oh, absolutely,
The
100%.
school is going to go up. You could cut the town out completely, and I guarantee the school's going to go up.
Yeah.
You can only you can only try to ease the burden on the town side, but so much.
Yeah.
Because the school keeps going up. And we don't even know what their budget's gonna be. It's just based on what the state's already decided it's gonna go up.
Yeah.
And if they increase their budget, it's gonna go up even more than that. So you can cut us, you can cut us as much as, but you're never gonna cut what the school goes up.
And I 100% agree and understand that.
And I
logic.
try to, if you look at your tax bill, 3/4 of it is the school, and everybody says there's nothing we can do about the school.
No,
So
that's not the case either, but
Well, that's what I hear a lot. Nothing you can do about the school, so
Well,
we cut it on the town side
And
as much
I
as.
think-
tax bill, wouldn't it?
I think Josh does have a good point in terms of that there has been certainly a lot of complacency in saying, well, the school budget's always going to go up. But at some point, somebody's got to take the reins and say, no, it's not going up, it's coming down.
Right.
But that hasn't happened yet.
No, it hasn't.
And,
But what-
it may never, because I've seen what happens at school budget meetings.
Oh, I know.
And
But that's what I'm
it's-
saying,
that's what
is the
happens.
school is gonna go up, and you can only cut the town so much
yeah.
to
But
try to make it up. Is
The
basically what we're
school-
doing is trying to make up for the school, and we never will.
no, well, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to run our town as fiscally responsible as we possibly can. There's nothing we can do about the school. There never is going to be anything we can do about the school as select board members.
No.
But what we can
But-
try to do
but
is
we
align,
can is,
align
you know,
ourselves better with
tax-
other towns and start living more within our means that we haven't for years. And that's the only thing I have to say.
Quick question.
Yep.
When you do these side-by-side comparisons, all you're looking at is money, right?
No, we're looking at hours as well.
So, but you're not looking at job description, you're not looking at what, like for the treasurer's office, how much money's being, moved around and done with. So you're not comparing apples to apples, you're not comparing treasurer's office to treasurer's office, clerk's office to clerk's office, because they may do a lot more down here than Guilford does, or than so-and-so does. There may be a lot more responsibility on these folks than other towns have. And so you're saying, well, you know, this town doesn't have an assistant, or this town has a 10-hour assistant, but the job descriptions may be something completely different. And when you start looking at what the jobs are and the responsibilities and stuff like that, I think that's something that if you're gonna do a side-by-side comparison, you also gotta look at that aspect of it.
I don't disagree with you, but based on population, based on, you know, those kind of things, we can get a pretty darn good idea of what each treasurer's office does, or what each town clerk office does, or what the library does, or all that kind of thing, based on population and in our own budgets versus other town budgets, so we can actually see those dollars without, you know, really digging in deep, because it sits there in the budget. We can see how much money goes through the town, because it's in front of us in black and white. What have been saying, and will continue to say, is we have a significant amount of hours over any other town. So unless we're doing twice as much work as every other town, which I can't even imagine that's the case with the same population and budgets being what they are, that's the case.
But it might be.
So
unless you investigate that.
it might be anything. It might be less. Those folks might be doing more with less. But, yeah.
Well, and I would just add too that all of the towns in Vermont have to meet a certain standard. I mean, the treasurer in Guilford has to meet at least a minimum standard, as does Vernon, and as does Brattleboro and so on. So, at least to my knowledge, we're here in Vernon meeting the standard, and then perhaps in some cases exceeding it. And I'm sure that probably that's the case in Guilford as well. Or we would have heard about some investigation at the Attorney General's office to the contrary. You don't see that happening really. There are standards that have to be met by the state. That we're all under the same set of laws. Guilford, Brattleboro, Vernon.
Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do admire the board as before. It's not an easy one. I would point out that there are some things that our offices do that comparable towns do not do. For instance, we sell pay-as-you-throw bags, which, to my knowledge, none of the other comparably populated towns do in their town offices. And if you've been by our doors on a Wednesday, it's a steady stream of people looking for trash bags for the Thursday pickup. I'm sure that we can do a better job presenting to the board what we do, which is unique to Vernon, that is not replicated in some of these other similar towns.
Yeah. And I respect that there is other things to do. Is there 20 to 40 hours more worth of work of selling trash bags versus in a different town? Probably not. If there are other examples that, you know, you can bring to me, I'm more than willing to listen to them. We're not talking about your office right now anyway, but we will, as a select board, decide what's best for the town.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? Jeff? Planning Commission.
Are you done with that?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Near and dear to my heart, the Planning Commission.
We did not do very much with our budget, mainly because the vast majority of our budget is Wyndham Regional, that we
There's
can't do
nothing there,
anything
yeah.
about. Otherwise, there's really nothing there.
Okay. All right, questions, Steve?
No, not at this point. I understand that mechanism.
I don't like it, but it is.
It is what it is.
Jeff?
Why did Wyndham Regional go up $2,000?
Excuse me.
Why did Wyndham Regional go up $2,000?
It
just did.
It didn't. With the requirement for matching funds for grants that are through Wyndham Regional, thought was if we add $2,000, if we get grants, we can get a lot more money in grants.
We actually
'cause that match
suggested
would
that
be
in the
there.
earlier meeting.
Right,
Oh,
so,
yeah, I do recall
so
that.
that's, that, so right now, there's a little money in there for matching, but that puts it up to like
Because the rest of,
3,000.
rest of that line item, Wyndham Regional tells us what we pay, we pay.
Right, right.
I think it's based on population, right?
It is, yes. Yeah. It's kind of like, I think Prescott was the same.
So you don't have anything now for professional assistants? What about your assistants that you have
All
now? Are
the-
you anticipating you won't need tomorrow?
Well, that did not come out of our budget this
Oh,
year
okay.
either. We asked the select board for that as a separate
Okay.
line item for
Yeah.
the legal fees and the technical assistance.
Right.
Hopefully we won't have to ask for it again next year. This issue will actually be settled at some point while
Okay.
we're still
So you-
alive.
You're anticipating that to be done then, so you haven't put it in here. Okay.
Jeez, well, we're still alive. Oh, that's nice. Excuse me.
Sorry.
Well, let me go choke for that.
Anything else?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
All right. Seniors.
Oh, it's around here.
Ten -7 -1 -50.
Want me to do this for you, Betty?
Okay. So in speaking with the seniors yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, there is a lack of plates, napkins, that sort of thing that the seniors have never had to purchase before. And so, considering that now those items will have to be purchased, that we don't have a line item in the town budget for them, but the seniors would like to request, in addition to the $23.50, another $200 to cover those items.
Steve?
On the subject of plates and napkins, certainly they're important. As far as the seniors' overall budget, I don't have any problems with it. Being a senior myself.
Yes,
Yes, right. I want to point that out.
and it is important because we have transferred almost everything that we did, like our Thanksgiving dinner is now done with potluck, and all our meetings are done potluck. So we are kicking in more and more out of ourselves, and that is it is important to us. It might sound very minimal, but to us, it's a big thing.
Jeff?
Sure.
Say anything. Jane?
That's fine, because I enjoy your lunches too.
And they'll be on a plate.
That'll be awesome.
You can't just eat it off the table and just wipe it off after?
We could do
We
that.
could, yeah, that's right. BYOP. that works.
Bring your own plate.
That's right.
Okay.
It's so rich.
Am I adding that in?
Is she adding that in? The $200?
Oh, I thought you had already.
I
put
just
it
did.
down.
No, she hadn't, but she just,
She just hit the button.
So you're saying under activities or under other supplies?
I ran out of fight tonight, so.
Well, I mean, no, if you feel that you should say something, if you feel
Okay, this
that
is time
it's
to
not
ask him.
something you want to support.
I'm running out of fight.
I would encourage at least potentially asking for, some assistance in that regard too.
We do.
You do.
We're good, but we're also old. So we do as much as we possibly can with our fundraising to offset, to keep.
Okay.
The seniors, our group, is very important to Vernon seniors. To a lot of them, it's their only social outlet where they get to interact with other people. And I think we're important. And we do as many fundraisers, and we try to keep up the morale, keep them moving, and we do, don't we?
Absolutely. And you know, I'm one of your
Your
customers. Every
supporters.
time. You put the tent up, I'm there with the truck. The van, excuse me. It is covered. I don't want chipmunks in my food.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Highway.
I know it's here somewhere.
It's toward the end.
That's what I was thinking.
There's a couple of different ones.
Yes. There it is. I found it. Actually, there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, Dave gets to do 3 budgets. He's so lucky.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 articles.
50 to 60 back to 50.
So we're looking at the highway maintenance, that's the first one.
Okay. Yep.
Flat year over year. Steve?
What, I don't know, maybe David could just go over very briefly and just mention what he's done to try to cut things here and what the prognosis is. What are we going, which roads aren't going to be maintained this year, I guess. I know Whitetail Drive isn't, but that's my problem, right?
Yeah, actually, I haven't touched anything on this one. The equipment rentals, what you guys dropped down last year, this is the first year that we're in it, so we're gonna try to make it.
How's it looking?
Well, usually a lot of that's in the spring, so that's where it's gonna be fast, the sweeping and all that. But I could send bills to the town office, school and fire department for their lots.
Well, that just moves money around.
Thank you. You know, that's what you don't, there's a lot of stuff that we do for the other departments that
It's not shown.
it's not there. We absorb it and we just,
Now, the stormwater, I noticed it's 16, is because of all those nice new laws, right?
and it's gonna start this May. They extended it 1 year, we were so lucky.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
In fact, I don't know if Michelle mentioned about the other article for the culverts.
Culvert, yeah.
They've actually changed some of those sizes too, in the baffles.
So, $400,000 for a culvert on Upper Hill.
Tyler Hill.
Tyler Hill.
Yeah. The one down in front of it.
This is a state mandated thing. And how much money is the state gonna help pay for it?
Yeah.
I know
If
the
I can
answer.
get the structures grant, it's 175,000. If we can piggyback another one, I think is 60,000. So we're looking at, what, 230, maybe.
And some of those weren't done that long ago, really. I mean, they should last a lot longer.
So,
Well, no, now they're going to boxes, the concrete
Yeah.
box. It's the one that's in there now, and the one down below that we did 10 years ago, they were both put in 95, the pipes. And it only cost us 10,000. 10 years ago, the one culvert was 200,000. 10 years later, you start funding, they want 400.
These boxes are as a result of the stream flow issues, right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
And they got the baffles,
Exactly.
and they want the baffles higher now. In the center, they come down,
Sure,
so the fish can go up through.
that's right.
so, after you described how the increases have gone for culverts, that's a bunch of crap. Yeah, right?
I agree with you.
Yeah, I
We
know.
sent it to the state, and what's, Where do all the fish goes when we have all the floods?
I mean, I don't,
I can see some.
Follow the water.
I don't understand as municipalities, the state is gonna require this and that. We can't afford to pay for it.
The municipalities right now, as far as I can look at it, the highways are no different than a regular contractor now. We're under all those rules. We're no longer exempt.
The only way to combat it is just not do it.
Yeah, well, what's the repercussions if you just don't do something?
Well, that culvert will fail and you'll be forced to do it sometime.
Eventually.
But you gotta remember, they make the box culverts for the jobs, that's the
Yeah.
only thing.
I mean, it's the
It's
state,
specific, the
Right.
culverts are specific.
if you don't do something the state tells you ought to do,
And now,
what do they do?
anything that's a 3-foot culvert and up, you have to go through the state, and have it hydraulic studied.
But if you don't
Hindsight-
tell them what you're doing, and you just put it in,
Josh,
You're on tape.
You're being taped.
turn that camera off.
The fines
That affect other funding from the state, though. Sometimes you get in bad standing and you're not
Oh,
gonna
then
get
they
your other
punish you in a
funding.
different way?
Yeah.
hindsight, 15 years ago, they started. Now we know why we all had to register our culverts. They know what sizes we got. And they've increased them from 15 to 18.
So,
We fed them all the information.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
I'm guilty.
so they have some kind of scientific proof or evidence that it has to go from 15 to 18 and...
The spotted salamander's gotta be able to get through there.
they are pretty big, you know.
Well, I wish that salamander would pay some taxes. Okay. that answers
Getting
my
punchy.
Yeah, it's-
They are.
And it's gonna get worse. That's all I get to say.
All right,
So
so,
something's gonna have to get done before it gets...
Right, something's gotta come.
so you said you didn't really even look at this, the highway
Yeah,
maintenance
not
budget?
that one.
You have not looked at this one? Can
I
you-
didn't touch anything on that because it was touched last year.
Okay.
And everything's so close. I mean, you're within, the salt last year, all that is 2 trailer loads more than we would have been at.
Yeah, explain to me gravel. I think I made you do this already, but I don't remember.
Dirt roads, shoulders, anything, any of the washes.
No, I mean, we spent $4,800 and we're budgeting 8.
I did do that. I know, well, we didn't get to the
Is that so?
gravel, because sometimes I take the gravel out of this instead of the, for when we do the paving. It's a small amount, and that won't be done now until spring,
Okay.
so.
So that 16, 17 actual is not accurate?
Right.
Okay.
And if I had known, we would have got waste blocks, because we've been using the waste blocks on our culverts
Yep.
to do the headers.
To keep
Instead of getting the fancy headers, the state, that is allowed, so we
Okay.
get them from Carroll.
Gotcha. All right. Any other questions on the highway maintenance budget? Town garage operations.
Heating oil is down. Dues and subscriptions, and travel and conference. Other than that, everything is basically right in there.
But you're at the 5%, basically.
Yep.
Your part-time operator.
That was reduced down last year, down to 5.
But you only spent
I-
1444.
I don't know when anybody's gonna be sick or,
How much is gonna snow?
and plus, have been lucky, Seth and Ian have taken flagging with us. So when we need flaggers, if they're available, Matt Coombs, but he's one we have to pay. But it's when I can grab guys to help that.
Seth and Ian are happy to put an orange vest on.
Seth has run roller.
I know he has. I get pictures.
We're doing what we gotta do to try to cut.
Yeah, and we
But if
appreciate
somebody's
all
out
the
sick,
intermingled
I
of
don't,
the.
as long as our part-time guy keeps willing to have me call him.
Can you explain, you've got supplies and then road tools and supplies?
Road tools and supplies, all our signs on the road.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh,
the
like
other
street
ones,
signs
like your
too?
basic filters and all,
Oh, for the
vehicles.
trucks and oil change and things.
Yep.
Okay. Just curious.
And that was another big added expense when they went to the bigger signs.
Mm.
And that was a federal mandate.
So, because you're a good pair to read them.
You got money for that.
That's why we do that.
I didn't hold my breath, so I'm still here, so nope.
So,
Yeah.
Any other questions on the town garage operation budget? The cut was made, we appreciate that. Road equipment repair and maintenance.
Why do I have 5% there, but I don't see nothing?
I don't know. So I don't see anything either.
Yeah, I don't know. Because everything's right in there. Because the trucks was done a year ago by you guys, so.
The others, some of the other maintenance looks like, at least in 16, 17, you spent a lot less than getting budgeted now.
Right, that was a cut they did last year, so we're trying. We're trying to work with it.
But I'm looking at the actuals, like what you
Yep.
actually spent.
Yeah, we had 13 budgeted, we spent 17,320.
No, that's, well, say like the grader
Yep,
and the tractor's backhoe mower, front end loader. What was spent was way less than is getting budgeted. I don't know if you anticipate things or if that's a usual
Well,
amount that you spend.
it's been what's been in there. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But loader or grader, if we do one tire, that just wiped out that whole account. If we have to replace a tire. That's, and if anything else comes up, those are our biggest two equipment size.
Yeah. Well,
Because I looked at the same thing, Gene, but if you look at the actuals and the total spent, I mean, really, I'm glad we have it broke out like this, but so we can see what equipment maybe is costing us more than what it's worth and we need to start replacing it. And that's why it has it broken out this way. But if you look at it as an overall total, you know, we spent $23,000 on maintenance total, and we're budgeting 22 going forward in 17, 18, and again, 18, 19 proposed. So even if the individual line items were underspent, the total spent, if you looked at it as just road equipment repair and maintenance, without breaking out individual pieces of equipment, we're right there.
It all depends what happens that year.
Yeah. Because if the trucks don't break down as much next year, but
And the
something
loader-
bad happens to the grader, those things can offset each other.
And the loader is out for bid now.
Yeah, we got a new one.
Well, we get the bids coming back in. They'll be here for January meeting.
So we're under warranty for a little bit. so they can keep the tractor there for months and months and months and not give it back to us.
That's something to do with anybody.
That's what's happened.
I know.
And on the tractors, that's $1,000 and that's for 2. That covers the backhoe and the mowing tractor.
So I got a question about the grader. A few weeks ago, we asked the capital plan committee, what's this $8,000 a year going towards refurbishing the grader? Explain why we're budgeting $2,500 to maintain it, and we're supposed to start saving up $8,000 a year.
Trying to, 4 years ago, there was a chain in one of the sides we had to replace, and that was $4,000.
Yeah.
We've done some of the pistons. That's just putting it in to send it out, having to see if there's anything that's big that needs to be done, instead of trying to purchase another new one.
What's a new grader cost?
It's 200 and some odd, almost 300,000.
Okay, so over 10 years, we're gonna put $80,000 into this grader. I mean, if the capital plan goes as is, right? We got Broadbrook Road, and that's it.
Upper West.
4 miles of dirt road.
We got a total of 4 miles
Sack
of dirt
Road.
road. Is that right? Okay, so we got a grader to maintain 4 miles of dirt road. I mean, granted, it's we own it, but why don't we sell it
You're gonna turn around,
and rent from Guilford or some other town? I'm just kind of okay.
you're gonna turn around and spend at least 15 to 20,000 a year to rent one. That's the kicker. You're at that. Plus trucking it.
You know why I'm asking, though.
Yep.
I mean, it just doesn't make
Yep.
any sense.
Yep.
To have a large piece of equipment that,
But you're looking at one that's 88. So going this long, and if you can go that same amount of time again,
well, it's a lot of money for what we gotta use it for. That's all.
The grader is used on these dirt roads to smooth them up in the spring and summer and all that stuff. Yeah. And has there ever been a consideration to just, I mean, I'm only just tossing this out, but just contracting the work to somebody that does that kind of stuff and has that equipment, like Sluicy or something?
there's not too many with graders.
Oh,
That's,
really? Okay, I'm not aware of that. Right. So graders.
some of them
are
do
more
have them, some
municipal
don't.
and-
You're gonna be getting into, then it'll come like fall time. If you went to Lane, Warner Brothers, all them on their job sites,
Yeah,
they're gonna take, then you're gonna have trucking on top.
yeah, no, I know. Well, just a thought anyway.
Yeah.
And all this,
Like I said, it's a lot of money for what little we use it for.
I like the idea of subcontracting it because it takes it out of, there is no, well, there's trucking built within the cost of, the subcontractor, but
Well, then you could go out for, you have the 4 miles of road. What is, and you can go out and get a bid on that for an annual maintenance thing, and then at that point what it's going to cost. Just a thought. I'm not a road specialist. If we had some chemical issue, I'd be able to talk.
Yeah, I know you've been really good at trying to work with other towns. You help us, we'll help you. I just think this is one of those cases where maybe somebody else could help us. We'll help them. And
the only problem, we come into the same springtime and fall, everybody.
everybody wants to
Right,
at the same
right.
time, yeah.
Just like cutting corn, everybody, right now. Yep, that's the only problem we're gonna have.
Yeah, we'd have to get the residents on the dirt roads to be happy with
You're-
their ruts for a little while longer, right?
Stan, come on.
Probably wouldn't work too well.
Like David said, it's an old grader, but it's got low hours on it. And we don't use it that awful much, but when you use it in the spring and in the fall, especially spring, getting the roads ready to put the chloride down, everybody's using their graders at the same time.
Sure.
Pretty much. And in the fall time too, touching the roads up, getting ready for winter, you know? So if you go to rent one, it's gonna be hard to try to get one, because everybody's doing the same thing. And like you say, then you got trucking, if you can drive it to where it's gonna go, yeah, but otherwise you got trucking expense. And the other thing is, I mean, yeah, go ahead and sell it. What are you gonna get out of it? Not that much. We own it.
Yeah, but we gotta put 80 grand into it to keep it.
Yeah, but I don't know what we've spent on it. David can probably tell you guys have the records in front of you.
Yeah.
I mean, something breaks, take the money and get it fixed. Otherwise, I mean, because some years you might not put nothing into it, and other years you might put a few dollars, put some money into it. It ain't like you gotta, I mean, if it comes down to the nitty gritty, like I say, if you're gonna sell it, what are you gonna get out of it? The age of it and everything. So I would say just hang on to it, and if you don't put a lot of money aside to fix it, I mean, you just put a little bit aside, so you do have it for oil changes and seals and stuff like that. If something happens to it that's gonna cost a little bit more money, then I guess we're gonna have to, I mean, it's the idea then, hey, either try to get the money from somewhere, to fix it, to keep it going, or then bite the bullet and get rid of it, or.
Let's give it to somebody
Yeah.
and sign a contract for 15 years for them to maintain our roads. In exchange.
But it is really a good grader, and it doesn't have, a lot of hours on it,
Yeah. Well, it's only been doing 4 miles a year, spring and fall, so.
But, yeah, I mean, that's,
Much hours.
I mean, that's a good point. Everybody wants to use the graders all at the same time.
Yep.
But you also use it for wind and winter.
If we have to.
I'm on the capital plan committee, and we had a meeting today. And the questions that you were asking David about what it's going to cost to, if something does happen. But the questions that Linda's going to be calling you about, David, is if we do get rid of it and we have to go to another town, are we going to be able to use it when we need it?
It'll be when theirs is
9 out of
done.
10 times, no.
Right. And there's other questions too that she's going to ask you about that I think you had asked, somebody had asked Linda about at the meeting.
Yeah,
Fuel tanks.
There was some questions, and so she's going to be calling you,
We have that
David.
list.
We have it.
We have that list in our packets of some
Yeah.
questions that were already asked and answered.
Right, and there's some more too that she was going to ask David about to see, what the cost would be on different things.
Okay.
So she's going to call you, David.
Okay.
And see if you can, answer some of the questions.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I had some, from the capital plan, I had some questions about $200,000 to replace 2 fuel tanks. Seems pretty exorbitant to me. And so you got an on-road diesel tank and you got a gasoline tank, both are 4,000 gallons. The gasoline tank would probably cost more than diesel.
With all the monitoring inside in the garage. So if there's a leak, which will have to be all done.
If you have above-ground tanks with a containment around them, that would be cheaper than have to replace underground tanks, wouldn't it?
I don't know if it will be now, because those are all coming into more rules and regulations too.
From who?
State. I hold a license for our fuel tanks. Believe it or not, I do. I just took and did a thing for the state every year I got to.
Wait, you do understand why I'm
Yeah.
questioning spending $100,000 per tank?
We don't have recycle bins in the way anymore. Just put them there. Build a block wall around the.
I mean, it doesn't make that much sense to spend that much money on something that shouldn't have to.
Because those were put in 90, so we should have been right putting money away years ago. And depending what happens when they're done, if there's anything wrong with the ground, you gotta pull that out, that's extra.
Dave, can I ask you a quick question? When we were talking about your budget, you had a grant come in for $9,461 that we were gonna put on the culvert fund, remember we had
No,
talked about?
paving, town road upgrade fund.
Because I have here no article for culvert fund this year, but now I know that's changed, obviously,
Right.
for obvious reasons, so.
But that 9,461,
Just gonna go.
I asked to take it off on the article for town road upgrade, which would make that 90,539. If we use that.
If you put it there,
Yeah.
instead of the 100. So if, and when we sat down and figured it out, if he took that 9,000 and spread it out over his whole budget, and put it as income on his budget, he would get pretty close to 5% across. Highway maintenance ends up at 2.3, but if you spread it apart around the three budgets,
Then there
it's
was
pretty close to
5% on the other one too. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, if you
When I
did,
cut the other.
if you spread it out, did the math, garage operation, road equipment repair would get down to the 5% goal that he was looking for. And the highway maintenance made it to 2.3. So he got really close if he put that money in there, but it, logistically, it might be easier just to put it on the article and take it off there. It's the same bottom line.
Any other questions on the road equipment repair and maintenance budget? Okay. So I'm going to say one more time and reiterate, because we've made no cuts, additional cuts tonight, from what we have. Right now, we sit at 194,864 decrease year over year. If the police department stays at $75,000. And if we even decide to keep that, because that, we haven't had that final discussion yet among us. If it goes back to what it was last year, our cut this year is $36,904 at town meeting. If everything stays as it is right now, and the sheriff's department is increased to what we have, $36,904 is a disservice to the town of Vernon. My opinion only.
So, the last line, total budget. The year we're in is over $2 million, that budget. The proposed budget for the next year.
Not really, it's 1.7.
It's 1742,
Oh, is that same
067.
thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the 1547, 203 figures are income as well.
Okay.
So it's 194, 864 with the sheriff's department decrease. The sheriff's department decrease doesn't hold, it's a $36,000 budget decrease year over year. Which is not enough, in my opinion. So, please bear that in mind as we go into the rest of these budgets. And that's all I've got to say about that. Public participation agenda items only.
Thanks, Dave.
Seeing none, correspondence?
You have all the correspondence, absolutely.
Okay. Town admin report?
No, we have everything.
Okay, got that. Upcoming meetings. Select Board Road Inspection of Hemlock and Aspen Lanes, Tuesday, December 19th. Should be really nice and warm for us to go out and walk along the roads. Regular meeting December 19th as well, right after the road inspection. Select Board, final Select Board budget meeting, I hope, is December 20th, 6:30. PUC meeting for the sale of Vermont Yankee is January 4th, which is not on this list. 6:30, I believe, right?
I don't know.
I think it's 6:30 at the elementary school.
Actually, Judge, it's not going to be at the elementary school. Apparently the PUC didn't call Seth until yesterday,
Oh, really?
and they already have something planned. So they're gonna try to see what they can work out. So we're not sure that it's gonna be at the elementary school.
TBD,
Even though everybody's talked about it forever.
yes.
But the date is probably gonna stay the same?
Yeah, I think so.
The date will stay the same?
It'll probably end up in Brattleboro.
Oh, super.
Or somebody said call our mill, maybe we could do it at his church.
Oh, that's an idea. That's an idea.
I'll find out what's going on with the school.
Okay.
All right, we're adjourned.